Why isn't this not working? And just like that, it's Friday, the something or other of, what is it, the end of October, right?
31st, it's Halloween.
Oh, is it? Oh, I hate all that crap. It's just American rubbish that we don't need.
I thought you liked America.
I love America. I don't like the crap that we have to import, like, Halloween. The next thing they'll be trying to push on us is Thanksgiving or something.
But funnily enough, actually, I was just going to say, Thanksgiving is actually the one thing that I don't mind the idea of. I'm actually sort of quite disappointed that of everything we imported from America, why did it have to be Halloween? I would have thought Thanksgiving is much nicer.
No, the thing I regret the most, and I remember arguing with my best friend who died a few years ago, Francis McGuy, and we were talking about no-win, no-fee lawyers, or as I call them, ambulance-chasing bastards, which is what they are.
I hate that.
Of course, they are scum of the earth. And having had them after me, took me a year to get rid of a scammer, full day in court, barristers, the lot. The guy was a complete scam artist, and the case was thrown out thousands of pounds later. No win, no fee. And at the end of it, he just went, like that, gave me a look. Piece of crap. Anyway, no win, no fee. I said to Francis over dinner one day in South Ken, that'll never come here. This is Britain. How wrong I was. How wrong I was, eh? How are you, fella? Lovely to see you. What's going on?
Yeah, likewise. I am reasonably chipper. Thank you very much indeed. Yes, can't complain too much. Seems to have been a very funny sort of week. I don't know why.
It's been a ghastly week. It's been a horrible week for me personally. But hello, people. Oh, sorry, he's from Yorkshire. Hello, people. Hope I find you all well. Aye, lad. And Ian in Surbiton goes, afternoon, Russ.
What part of Yorkshire was that?
It was Pakistan, part of Yorkshire. I don't bloody know.
Oh dear.
Somewhere north of Watford Gap Services. That's the north of England.
No, I know it requires the passport. I just wasn't aware of what part.
You get to Watford Gap Services on the M1 and go, I don't know where I am. I'm lost now. That's it.
Yeah, you sort of go north of Watford Gap and then just turn left and hope for the best.
You just go, well, okay. Not a clue.
No.
I didn't get a passport. I don't know what I'm doing. All right. There's loads of stuff I want to talk to you about. All right. Loads of stuff. Serious. And some of it'll be funny. Well, you've done very well. No, I'm sorry. Did you not get the memo from Buckingham Palace? You are just now Ian. You'll just be known as Ian.
Oh.
Not Ian of Surbiton, mate. Just Ian. Here he is, all the way from Grand Rapids, Michigan, Clark Gilbert. He doesn't talk like that at all, but he's my new pal. Clark and I have met a few times over our love of cigar and single malt scotch, and he's a great guy.
He's got a sensational name, it has to be said.
What, Clark Gilbert?
I think brilliant.
It's a fabulous name.
Yeah.
Clark Gilbert. And he lives in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Just two somewhat abrasive first names, Phil Dave. That's
Phil
it.
Dave. It was my son-in-law always calls you. How's your mate, Dave? I said his name. He said this for like as long as I've known. I said his name's not Dave. It's Phil.
Was he one of the writers for Fools and Horses? Was he?
I don't know. He always calls you Dave.
Always calls me Dave.
We go from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
You know, my name's not Dave.
Trig, why don't you call me Dave? What's your name? Hello, gents. How can it be Friday already? Well, it's been a busy old week. It has been.
Primarily because yesterday was Thursday, but I know what you mean.
Well, yesterday was always been Ian Surbiton, not Ian of Surbiton. I know my place. Yes, dear. Ian. You're not even Ian. No, Ian. Can we be very clear? King Charles has said, you've got no style and got no style, right? And you got no title, so you're just Ian. That's it. Look, it's not up to me. If it was up to me, you'd be Lord Surbiton. But, you're not. So what can I do?
Yeah.
Right. Let's talk about this. I never knew there really was a place, Grand Rapids, Michigan, but that's where Clark lives. And bless him. We always have a great time when we meet up. He's such an interesting man. And I can't wait until the next time you're in London, fella, and we can hang out again. Now, yesterday, we don't normally do news. I'm just curious because I want to expand the conversation. And Phil never knows what we're going to do. I never know what we're going to talk about. This came into my mind. Yesterday was probably the most brutal message that's ever come out of Buckingham Palace. It was, wow. It was brutal of the first order of brute, right? And the artist formerly known as Prince, now just Andrew Windsor Mountbatten. What is it? Mountbatten Windsor?
Windsor. Yeah.
Mountbatten Windsor. The artist formerly known as Prince. Wow. I mean, wow. Wow.
It is wow, but at the same time, I don't really think the king had any other choice.
Well, this is my question to you, did he? Well, actually, I've got a broader
see how
question.
he could. I mean, there's obviously something pretty nefarious going on there, whatever it may be. And if let's just suggest that if Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is not going to spend any time in at His Majesty's pleasure, then there has to be something. So
something coming down the pike. Something coming down the pike that's going to be a clusterfuck for the royal family. I'll tell you what, the question I wanted to ask you, because you have a very erudite view of life.
I do.
I have a more emotional view of life. But you do. You dissect these things. And were they trying to save what's left of the monarchy? I'm going to put in parenthesis this. I think the monarchy died when our wonderful late Queen Elizabeth II died. For me, that was it. And I don't know anybody who, when they say, and today on the news, the Queen visited, I immediately think of Queen Elizabeth II. I never think of Camilla. I don't think of Camilla as I'm sure she's a lovely person. I'm sure she's terribly entertaining, but I never think of her as the Queen. Ever.
But she is the Queen.
No, I know that. Philip, intellectually, I totally understand Camilla's the Queen. Of course she is. I get that. Emotionally, she's not. Queen Elizabeth's the Queen and always will be for us of a certain age, I think.
So here's the problem. It's because Queen Elizabeth had the most phenomenal reign. I mean, she was the longest reigning monarch, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
And so as a result of it, most people have never known any difference. And so getting our heads around the way that the crown actually works is quite tricky, because we don't realize that there is no consistency. There's consistency, obviously, with the same family, but there's no consistency in the fact that it's the same monarch all the time. And I actually reckon the only time we're going to truly appreciate just how succession truly does work will probably be, and I hope it's not for a very long time, but when the king leaves us and William and Kate take over, I suspect that's when we'll probably sort of say, oh, okay, no, now I see, maybe you make a point, because it would be obviously the second time we see a coronation possibly in a matter of decades. And as a result of it, that's probably when the penny's going to drop. I don't really care very much for the way that people sort of start talking about how, and I'm not saying you are, but I don't care for the way that people say, oh, the monarchy's finished, we need to get rid of it, abolish it, it's old.
I didn't say that. Oh, no. Don't put words in my mouth,
I know you're not saying it. I know you're not saying it.
I didn't say I want it to be over. I'm
100%.
saying I think it's over.
No, I get that.
I'm a monarchist. I always have been. I'm a keen
monarchist.
I like it, because otherwise we'd have King Tony Blair. That's what we would have had. King Tony Blair's what he wanted.
Yeah. No. Believe me, I know completely you're not saying that. My point is that you hear a lot of people off the back of the death of Queen Elizabeth II saying that they think now's the time to abolish the monarchy.
Yeah,
well,
a lot of communists and so-called socialists and the great unwashed.
The abolition of the monarchy would just lead to untold disaster. Do we really want characters like Nicolas Sarkozy, who, of course, now is serving time in prison?
He's banged up.
And do we really want people like Macron and all of these morons?
The little shits, what they are.
Taking over.
They're despicable little shits.
No, thank you very much indeed.
No.
At the very least, we know full well that the royal family have spent literally all of their lives knowing their place in society, knowing that they are really responsible for a heck of a lot of the image of the UK. And the thought of abolishing them because so many people are jealous, I just think is appalling. It's really, I mean, jealousy is one of the vile emotions.
They don't get it. But Andrew was the worst possible example. I have no sympathy. People on X this morning, oh, I feel sorry, it's gone too far. I don't feel one bit sorry. He's a loathsome human being. I'm not even talking about Epstein or not Epstein. You can make up your own mind, right? I'm talking about as a human being. He was absolutely loathsome treated the staff like shit, entitled, rude, lazy, just a horrible man. So I don't feel sorry for him. I certainly don't feel sorry for Sarah Ferguson. I mean, what the hell? Suddenly she's how long ago did they get divorced? 20 years ago?
Oh, I don't
30,
know.
I don't
I
know,
remember
20,
them
30
getting
years
divorced,
ago?
but I just don't know.
But they got divorced like forever ago, right? Finished. You're nothing to do with the royal family. Sorry, love. Sort yourself out. And where all the millions she's got through, doing what? Living high on the hog. I have zero sympathy for these people. Why does he need to be rattling around in a 30-room mansion?
Oh, he
Bullshit.
might like to collect stuff.
Yeah. He's just a horrible guy. Horrible. But
Gotta have
that's
somewhere to put
can
those
you
clothes.
imagine? Do you think he'll ever speak to Charles again? I was looking at it from a interpersonal relationship, family. Do you think, I mean, because no one's going to talk about this on the news, do you think he'll ever talk to Charles again? I mean, his brother has thrown him under the bus and then some.
I don't see him as throwing him under the bus. I think, if anything, he saved his skin, to be honest.
What?
Because
Charles saved his own skin, or he saved Andrew's skin?
no, I believe that the king has actually saved Andrew, because the truth
How?
is, how? Because
Yeah.
he was increasingly becoming such a hated figure. For as long as he retained titles and stuff like that, no one can necessarily guarantee his safety, no matter how much protection he was surrounded by.
What, physical safety?
I wouldn't be in the least bit surprised. You know full well that there is a gross underworld in this country that quite rightly hates anyone who has any association with people who have, well, I'll say nefarious because I'm being polite, but let's just say pedophilic relations. You know, there are plenty of people who quite rightly go around.
Well, could you tell that to the Labour Party and the government, please? Because they seem to have skipped that. They don't quite seem to understand that being a nasty racist paedophile is wrong.
Look, all I'm trying to get at is, quite rightly, society does not accept people who behave in that way.
It's
Associating with people like that will be something in the way of a red rag to a bull, and that's me putting it very mildly. So I suspect that by this, or let's be honest, it's merely tokenism. I would argue that, certainly from Andrew's perspective, it's probably worse than the prison sentence, because this will mean more to him.
Yeah,
but
because
at the very least,
because he's an entitled git. So now that he's just a mister,
more than anything, what's happened is that the king has demonstrated that he won't tolerate this behavior in the royal family.
Yeah. Greetings, Michelle Vaughan, watching the show from Sydney. So we got people in Sydney, Australia, and we got people in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I love that. Fantastic. Do you think the monarchy is going to come out of this stronger or weaker? What do you think, Phil, Dave?
I think that it's a step in the right direction. But I don't deny there'll be an awful lot. So,
I mean, one of the best things to come out of this, of course, is that Harry and Meghan in Montecito must be shitting themselves, which is great news. Because Charles has said, look, enough's enough. Boom, you're a mister. You're not even a prince. You're not a this. You're not a duke. You're nothing. And Harry must be sitting there going, oh, my God, they're going to do that to us next, which, of course, they should, wholeheartedly. Then they can get divorced and the magic children can just disappear. The magic invisible children. It's like when the world's all going to hell in a handcart and you have this level of entitlement, it's like, what the hell? You really are tone deaf. You are so tone deaf. It's interesting.
We seem to be surrounded by people in authority who are quite tone deaf, though. Completely.
I don't know if they're that stupid, that dangerous, or more to the point, they couldn't care less as long as it sticks to their agenda, to their robot-like utterances. I mean, who the hell writes Starmer's tweets? Like a 12-year-old intern. I've never read such utter crap in my life.
Didn't he do like one line the other day on something about building houses, I think? Can't remember exactly what it was.
The guy's an idiot. The guy, you see, here's my dilemma. The guy can't be an idiot because he's a top. He was a top lawyer.
He's definitely not an idiot. I know people call him that, but he really is not.
No,
He might be
I mean,
unpleasant, but he's not an
he's a
idiot.
deeply unpleasant man. Deeply unpleasant. I honestly believe a lot of that government should be on trial. I think they should be on trial for treason.
It wouldn't surprise me if they needed to be.
Well, I think they should be on trial for treason, a lot of them. For treason. That's what I really believe. Elon Musk, whom I have a lot of time for, Elon Musk wrote something this week that seemed to slip under the radar, but it didn't slip under my radar, and I'd like to bounce it off you, Phil. He said, the United Kingdom's heading for a civil war. It's inevitable.
I would say that is what I've said for a long time.
And we both have.
Yeah.
We both have.
I agree completely.
I said that to somebody, and they went, "Oh, you're overreacting. You, what are you?" And I went, "You can only push people so far. Push them so far, and they will push back. Because in the laws of physics, you know, every action has a reaction. That's the laws of physics. You can't fight it. It's just like saying gravity doesn't exist. It does. I believe it. I believe it. And I don't want it because I think it's a terrifying, terrifying prospect.
It is, but at the same time, there is something that has been bubbling for a very long time, and there's only so much the pot can cope with before it boils over.
Yeah.
And so as much as I don't like the idea of this once amazing country turning violent towards each other, the truth is an awful lot of the each other is that some of the country are people who appreciate British values, have either moved over here and have adopted it quite graciously and realized that they should be grateful to live in such an amazing country. And then I'm afraid the other half consists of people who are saying, well, no, now we're doing it this way. And frankly, I think those people who are saying, no, we're going to start doing it this way now, deserve what's coming, because we simply won't allow.
Whoa, you have put your fit. You see, this is it. They've got it coming. It's going to be what's going to be on the banners.
You have got to understand that there are a lot of angry. I know you do understand, but people have to understand there are a lot of angry citizens who pay God knows how much in taxes, and in a couple of weeks' time are probably going to pay even more in taxes. All they see is that the services that they pay for fail left, right, and center, whether it be schools, whether it be doctors, whether it be hospitals, whether it be roads. All of these things are failing left, right, and center to the most shocking degree. The country is unrecognizable in attitude, whether it be talking about what kind of toilets we have, whether or not they are appropriately gender neutralized. We don't recognize justice anymore because it seems that the guilty party always get off scot-free, and that those victims are the ones who are made to pay the price. And people need to get their heads around that there are an awful lot of angry people in this country who have had enough. They can't stand it anymore, and that the politicians are not going to change the way the great British public think, because everything about Britain is organic and you can't force change on individuals. You're not going to be able to persuade them to say that actually, no, do you know what? You're wrong for thinking like this all these years. You're not going to persuade them that they are wrong for thinking a man is a man, a woman is a woman, right? Yeah. All of this nonsense.
How did we get hijacked? How did we get hijacked by a tiny minority of people, most of whom I think are mentally ill? I do. I'm not saying it lightly. I think they're mentally ill. I always have done.
But actually, isn't it fascinating? And forgive me, because you're not necessarily going to completely appreciate this comment, but I do have to stress that there are a couple of things that change that I think really fundamentally alter. There are three things that fundamentally altered society forever, I believe. And they are the number one, saying that people who are if they are, say, mentally ill, but dangerously mentally ill, should be treated the same as any other prisoner, rather than actually treated for the mental health problems that they have, whether that be in some sort of secure, I'm just going to say it, whether in some sort of secure asylum or what.
Yes.
That changed everything dramatically, because there are some people who otherwise wouldn't have posed a threat to the public because they would have been appropriately taken care of, when society turned their back on them and said, oh, we can't treat people like this anymore. No, you just can't treat people, period. That's all it is. Number 2, social media. I know it's a bit rich coming from us, the way that we are behaving now, obviously sort of dealing with social media and broadcasting on social media, but that has changed everything. And the third thing that I think has just changed everything forever is the way that basically we have sort of allowed the politicians to become this sort of this political elite that are a totally different class to everyone else. They're not different to everyone. And you know what, of course, caused that was the abolition of the House of Lords. And I know what people are going to say. No, the Lords still exist. No, it doesn't. The Lords is full of individuals who have been given a little prezi by their buddies in Parliament. That's right. All it is.
Little brown. It's like the equivalent of a little brown envelope in many cases.
When the House of Lords only had peers who were heritage lords, you know, they were the ones who inherited their titles from predecessors. They were exactly the same as the royal family. They were the ones who had worked all their life towards that title. Whether a couple of rotters, maybe, possibly, nowhere near as many as we've got now, but possibly 1 or 2. When they abolished the House of Lords as was, and that was Tony Blair, by the way.
Tony Blair, of course.
That changed the face of this country forever.
That's when the rot started. That's when the rot started with Tony B. Liar.
And it is just unbelievable what's happened. This once amazing country has just gone to the dogs and no one seems to care. Well, there are plenty of people who care.
The point about it is,
but unfortunately, those who could do something.
How many people are in the country? What have we got? 66 million now? I don't know.
It's around, yeah. But
well, they don't know because they don't know how many people they've let in. They haven't got a clue.
Yeah, that's why I say
they
it's
haven't
around
got a
69
freaking
million.
Clue. So whatever the Office of National Statistics, the ONS, comes out with, which I've worked for in the past, whatever they come out with, you can add to it. Damn sure. Let's look at something that I've never seen discussed. All right. And I'm putting my hands in the hornet's nest, but we're all over 21. This is interesting for me. And Tony Blair also removed much of what remained of the Magna Carta. A dangerous, dangerous man he was. And a warmonger. And he should have been on trial. He should have been on trial. Well, he should have been on trial. For what he did.
He's ruined the country. I mean, there's literally his legacy still carries on today. He
won't just piss off and go away. Every 5 seconds, he's coming up, popping up. It's like freaking Dracula, that man. Every time you think he's dead, he hasn't got another stake through the heart. Here's the thing. I want to ask you a really difficult question. And this is all hypothetical, and I'm not in favor of any of it. I want to be very clear. I am not advocating this. To be clear, I'm not. Let's just look at the hypothetical situation where the British people, the population of the UK, say enough is enough. This government is destroying us. Their immigration policy is an invasion. They are killing us with their lies. They are corrupt. Or at the least, they are corrupt. At the worst, they're crooks and should be on trial for various things. Democracy is being thrown down the toilet. We've had enough. So the revolution starts. Just say the revolution starts or the uprising starts. What does it actually mean? What are you going to do? Wave your copy of the Daily Mail and roll it up and bop somebody over the head? I mean, what does it actually mean? Because unless you had the army on your side, because forget the police. Forget it. Police are done. The police are done. And I have enormous time for the police. But the way they have been... I did, past tense. They've been politicized. They've been politicized. The judges have been politicized. There's no ifs or buts about it. The whole judiciary system is now tainted. So let's just say, right, here's the revolution. What does it actually mean? What would actually happen? You're going to storm the House of Commons? So what? Nothing's going to happen. Some heads will get cracked. That'll be the end of that. What does it mean?
I would never advocate violence as long as I live, because I don't care
Because it's
No,
otherwise it's
I
just,
don't care for
my
violence,
point
because
is,
then to
Phil,
me
sorry,
that just makes
Phil,
one as
Phil,
bad
Phil,
as someone else.
Phil, hang on. What the point I'm making is this, because everyone says, yeah, we're going to do this. What are you actually going to do? Actually going to do? Literally, what are the mechanics of it? Yeah.
So it's very tough to obviously sort of say what they are, because you and I both know that no one is legally allowed to advocate breaking the law.
Absolutely
I would say
right.
that I wouldn't be surprised if it involved mass breaking the law, but for very good reasons. Now, what those might be, who knows? Because I'm sure there are plenty of people who do criminal things saying that they are for good reason, when of course they are not, because they're breaking the law.
They're not.
The point being is that if you have enough people in society who are hacked off to the point where they decide that they are simply going to, how can I put it delicately, and legally, more importantly,
No, I
if they
understand what you're saying.
decide that they are not going to follow certain rules until
And they're going to take direct
take
action,
the
let's
hint,
just say.
then I think that I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Would I condone it? No, but I would.
But Phil, here's my question. What does it actually mean?
What do you mean? What does it mean?
What?
It means that the country's had enough. I don't really know what you want me to say here that I can legally say on air.
No, I understand that. Well, I'm talking about the mechanics of it. All right. And I can't stress enough, neither Phil or myself are advocating this. But when people talk about this, what does it actually mean? What are they going to do? They're going to march on Downing Street? So what? They've got gates, they've got police. They're going to march on the House of Commons? Nothing. Meaningless.
I can put it this way. I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, this is what I can say as a precursor. I wouldn't be surprised if it meant that there are swathes of society who decided that they don't want to pay taxes anymore because they can't trust what the government's going to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if there are swathes of society who, as you say, go out on the streets and start attacking individuals who they see as a cause of the problem. I wouldn't be surprised if there are swathes of society who would say that enough is enough. You lot of crooks. We have no respect for you anymore. Anything you tell us to do, we simply won't do. Do I advocate any of it? I don't advocate breaking the law, full stop. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. That's all I can say.
But it's doomed to failure, isn't it? Because
not really, because if there are enough people who do it.
Look, they can bang you up for 3+ years for a tweet. Imagine what they're going to do if you actually go. I'm going to answer your question, Clark Gilbert, in a minute. That you can imagine what they're going to do. Where the problem will become, and this is something I believe with all my heart. With all my heart, I believe, and I am not going to identify it, to be clear, there is a section of society that has been secretly arming itself. I'm convinced of it. I'm convinced.
That wouldn't surprise me either.
A certain section of society has been arming itself for years, waiting for the moment. We have a rolled up copy of the Daily Mail or the Daily Telegraph. That's kind of it. That's what we got. I don't think they have. And I'm not going to say where I think these arms are hidden. You can draw your own conclusions or not, as the case may be. I've been convinced of this for years. Convinced of it. This is true. This is Clark. I will come to you. Ian says this: the last time the UK came close to rebellion was 1978. Mountbatten was approached. Mountbatten walked out of the meeting because he said it was treasonous. He wouldn't have anything to do with it. Nothing ever came of it. Well, oddly enough, Ian, only last night on YouTube, I was watching a fascinating little documentary about what happened. You know about the Harold Wilson. Some of it's myth, some of it's fact, right, Phil? You know.
I know bits of, yeah.
All right, okay. Just to explain to our viewers all over the world, Harold Wilson was a Labour Prime Minister. The security services in this country believed that he had been turned by the Kremlin and was acting on their behalf. That's the nub of the problem. So one day, and I saw all the film of it, the footage of it, the army, with fully armed, with armored vehicles, completely surrounded and took over Heathrow Airport. 1977, 78. They took over Heathrow Airport. Right? Their excuse was it was a terrorism exercise in case there were terrorists. The Prime Minister knew nothing about it. Government knew nothing about it. It had been authorized in secret. The notion being, this is just a little warning shot, no pun intended, to you, Prime Minister, that we can do this if we need to. And they did it again another time as well. Nothing happened. There was a group of senior army people, some politicians. They had some meetings, and Mountbatten was asked, would you lead a revised country? And he declined and left the meeting saying, I'm sorry, this is treason. I'm not having this. This is against the law, and I'm not going to be part of a revolution, rebellion, whatever it is. So Ian's point's very, very well made. Nothing ever came of it. The only way any of this would actually work would be if the army were involved. Well, that's the only way. Ordinary people, there's nothing you can do.
And the thing that you have on side with the army is that most people enter the army now because everything in the army is voluntary. You don't really necessarily sort of obviously get conscripted anymore.
No.
You can bet your bottom dollar that those in the army are true patriots because they want to defend their land. And if that is the case, then I wouldn't be surprised if that indeed sort of does add an element of gravitas to it. Look, I very much hope, for the record, because I sort of have spoken an awful lot in riddles here, and the reason why I have is quite simply
legality.
There are laws in place that says what I can and can't say about this sort of stuff. But what I would say is I very much
one second, I'm going to interrupt you.
I'd like to just say very quickly, just this very point, I want to make it clear that I hope it gets sorted in a legal way. In other words, people with their votes. That's all I'm interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. What Phil is saying, I'm sorry, I'm not speaking like you're not in the room or you're 12, is that this is we are uncensored, we're 100% live, and we're uncensored. We are not liable to Ofcom or anything like that. We are, but there are laws of the land where if it could be interpreted that you were encouraging sedition or treason or anything like that, there'd be some consequences. Neither of us are doing that. I'm exploring what it actually means. These words that are floating around, these feelings. What does it mean in real life? There she is, Queen of Champagne, Tina Holt. Hi, Tina. Right, what is this? This is from my son and his young family are living in Adelaide. He's bought a plot of land and he's going to build his own house. He's asked me to help out, which I've agreed to do. In return, he'll be adding on an annex. Looks like my future is looking rather rosy. How lovely. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. If I could leave the UK, if I could, I would in a heartbeat, but I can't. I just can't. It's, yeah. I don't think we've ever known the country so unsettled.
It is horrendous. I mean, I was watching. I'm sure that you know. Obviously, I know we have no Chantal this week; she's off. But if you think back to recently discussing about how ITV have got their 70th anniversary celebrations, and they've released a whole load of old archive programs onto their streaming platform ITVX, and amongst them, one of the programs is Surprise, Surprise, of course, Cilla Black's program.
Yeah.
And I thought, I used to love that when it was on. I'm just going to watch it and remind myself. I cannot believe how different the UK looked in those days. It was just so unspoilt, so simple. It really was the simple things that people were thrilled about, such as the idea of sort of getting a chance to meet your pop idol. You know, all of these things that has just now suddenly meant nothing because
it's all been diluted, Phil. It's been diluted because any numpty, any absolute buffoon is suddenly a celebrity. Who gives a shit if you meet them or not? I couldn't care less.
It's
You know, the
bizarre. It
word
really is so sad.
celebrity. I mean, if you go into that, the word celebrity is the most pointless word in the British language at the moment, apart from the term free speech, which is pretty right. Clark Gilbert asked a very interesting, coming in from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Clark Gilbert said, if I could, why is my computer so damn slow? Give me a second. He asked this question: why did your government disarm its law-abiding citizens? Well, we've never been armed, thank God. Clark, we've never been armed here. It is not part of our DNA. It's not in any written thing. You're armed in America because of the Second Amendment, because of the idea of militias, which were originally, let's not go down too much of a rabbit hole. The idea was to form a militia to fight the British. I get it. And it was also when you had muskets, which were muzzle loaded and took like a month and a half to load, not when you had machine guns that could fire out God knows how many rounds a second, etc. All right, I get that. But it's enshrined in America. Too late to do anything about it. And if I lived in America, Clark, as you and I discussed many times, I'd get a gun ASAP and I'd carry one as well. I'd get a permit for a concealed carry. Wouldn't question it if I lived in America. Not if I lived in Britain. Thank God we don't have guns here, because it's enough with the stabbing. It's enough with the stabbing and the machetes and the rest of the shit that goes on, especially in London and the major urban metropolitan areas. Okay, we don't need guns added to that. They didn't disarm us. There was a mass shooting, and a chap walked through a town with a shotgun. He was obviously mentally mad. Killed God knows how many people, Hungerford. And they tightened up all the laws on owning shotguns. Now, farmers, unless you're a farmer, you don't need a shotgun. Okay? You don't. You can keep your shotgun and go clay pigeon shooting, as I used to do all the time. And you can keep your guns in the clay pigeon shooting club. All right? They clamped down on it so that it was very difficult to own a firearm. And as you and I talked about, Clark, no one in the UK has pistols. Bank robbers maybe, but nobody else. We don't have shotguns. We don't have guns. We don't have revolvers. We don't have it. It's not part of our culture. Never has been. But they clamped down on the farmers having guns. And it was much more difficult if you were a clay pigeon shooter, as I was. I never shot anything live. I didn't want to. It's enough for me for clay pigeon shooting. Fine. And I was going to get a shotgun and get the steel cabinet, which you lock up and the police come round to inspect it, and then you get a license. That they clamped down on. And clamped down on the fact that you could have guns in the back of your car. So you were going to a clay pigeon shoot. You better have a damn good reason why you've got guns in the back of your car, because they should be kept in the club. Fair enough. They're not golf clubs, they're guns, right? So that was it. So you're slightly askew there. They didn't disarm us because we've never been armed. Is that
Do you know
fair?
one of the ways
Is that fair?
that I actually no, but do you know one of the ways I actually think that the UK governments, successive governments, have disarmed us in not so much as with automatic weapons, you understand, but the systematic removal of discipline. That's the way we've been unarmed, disarmed. Because if you think years ago, there was always respect for rank, right? If someone was older, you respected them. Tough. End of. You never questioned them. You just did as you're told. And as the years have gone on, look at what's happened in schools. Now, does anyone want the cane to come back? Probably not. But at the same time, you can't deny that people had a hell of a lot more respect for teachers in those days, because they knew if they didn't, they'd be in trouble. Do we want?
Well, you didn't have the parents coming. You didn't have the parents coming in threatening to smash the teacher's face in.
Mm-hmm. Do we want to go back to a time perhaps where actually actions had consequences in the home? In other words, the parents would punish the child and they'd stick to it. This bizarre notion that parents are somehow your child's the child's friend. No. I've never got my head around it.
No. I went to a conference. All the panel were psychologists. It was excellent. And one of them said, something which is eminently sensible. The biggest mistake you can make with your child is that they're your friend. It's the American way. We're all, I want to share everything with you. No, I don't want to share everything with you. You're not my friend. You're my child. We can be friendly, but you're not my friend like Phil's my friend, or, Ray or Colin or Larry or Lloyd. They're my friends, or Clark. That's a different thing. Your
Surely it's
child
better
doesn't
than
want to
that.
hear your problem. Your child doesn't give a shit about your problems. That's the truth of it. They don't want to, not only do they not want to hear about it, they don't want to know, and they don't care. They don't care. Children are inherently incredibly selfish. So they're not your friend. That's the first mistake. You've got to treat them as a parent-child relationship. They're not your pal.
And as much as I understand why there are an awful lot of people who don't like the idea of bringing back conscription, I know that this has come up a few times in recent years. Say what you will about it, but there's one heck of a difference between those I know who've gone through the military and those who have not. I'm not saying it's not possible to be decent without the military, but it is amazing, beyond amazing, the step up that going through military service will actually do to someone. Because suddenly their perspective changes. They realize actually that the cotton wool they've been wrapped in isn't life, is not real.
Not real. It's very interesting because as a celebrant, a lot of the, when I'm doing the funeral services, obviously not in the wedding, but in the funeral services, a lot of the men were conscripted if they were old enough. And conscription came in 1947, I believe, and the last conscripted person was discharged in 1963. 63. So I'm well aware of that. And they conscripted over 2 million people over the years. And you had to serve 2 years. It was from when you were able-bodied from the age of 17 till, early 20s. Yeah.
But we need to understand that it's just because someone is conscripted, it doesn't mean they're suddenly going to go right up to the front and start fighting for the country. What it does, it basically teaches discipline.
Well, not if you were shoved off to Malaya or Suez,
obviously.
Especially if you were shoved off to Malaya. That wasn't fun. And a lot of the funerals
sure
I've done,
what I'm trying to get at is that
jungle.
People have a very skewed view of what conscription means. It is not necessarily that someone is going to go off to the front line. If you look look at Israel, for example, okay, every single young person in Israel must serve in the military. Okay, it is the law over there.
Yeah.
But yet, of all of those who do national service in Israel, do you know how many of them actually go to the front?
I don't know. I have no idea.
About 10%, if that.
Wow. Okay.
If that. It's probably actually even less. The vast majority do other duties inland to protect the country. But they still have it because they still serve the military. And as a result of it, people can say what they want about Israel and the government. But my goodness me, Israeli society is a heck of a lot more disciplined and a lot better for it.
One thing is for sure, and there's no point in, pussyfooting around it, that if you brought back conscription, any political party saying, we're bringing back, it will die a death.
Of course.
It would die a death. It is unelectable. Any party putting that in their manifesto, not that a manifesto means the paper it's written on if you're the Labour Party, doesn't mean anything at all, obviously, because you just lie to get in and then you continue to lie and you keep lying. But if you put that part of your manifesto, we're bringing back conscription, you would not get one vote. Maybe the old colonel in Tunbridge Wells, but otherwise you wouldn't get a vote.
They're denying for sure that at the moment it is not the right time, but there is definitely an argument to be had that this country needs in its many, many years of repair that lies ahead, if indeed we actually are even entering repair stage yet, which we're clearly not.
No, we're not. No, it's going to get... No, we're not. Of course we're not.
It's going to get a heck of a lot worse before it gets better. But in the many years that lie ahead, when hopefully we get to a point where we do start repairing the country rather than continuing to damage it, it will be something that needs to be planted in the minds that if we don't want this kind of thing to happen ever again, where we just seem to have just a load of wild animals that just roam the flipping streets everywhere, then unfortunately we need to toughen up, or we need to grow up, and we actually need to sort of say we need to get a grip on what's happened. Big time.
What is so blindingly obvious to me is this. The Labour government know they have 4 years left. They also know that at the next election, they're going to be eviscerated. They'll be gone from the political map. I'm pretty convinced of it. They will do anything to attract voters. Hence, let's bring the age down to 16. Bullshit. Of course you shouldn't.
Well, it won't make any difference anyway.
And they're certainly trying to attract a certain demographic within the United Kingdom, which is why they do everything to appease them. But my point is this. Do they not realize this is a complete Trojan horse? These independent MPs are simply using the Labour Party, the Labour government, as a way to get into power. They have no interest in the Labour Party. They have no interest in British politics. And they will leave once they're in and form another party. It's blindingly obvious what will happen over the next few years. My question to you, Phil, is what's going to be left in 4 years' time? How much more damage will be done that is irreparable?
Well, first of all, I believe that nothing's irreparable, truly. I mean that. Now, you might sort of think this is a bit Pollyanna-esque, but I genuinely don't think that there is anything in this country that is beyond repair. Do I think that some mightily tough decisions will have to be made in order to repair it? Yeah, damn right there will be.
On an industrial scale.
Absolutely. Going to be horrendous, make no mistake. But there are things that can be done that actually will instantly offer incentives for people to almost correct the problems themselves. For example, the welfare system needs total overhaul. If we were to say, just putting it out there, you had a welfare system that clearly states if you have not paid into the tax system for at least 5 years, you will not be entitled to any government help at all. What do you think that would do? Straight away, it would encourage the vast majority of people who come over here as pure charlatans just to bleed this country dry, wouldn't even bother because they know how much work they'd have to go through before they even got a penny of British taxpayers' money. So that's one thing. Number two, all of those delightfully work-shy reprobates who sit on their backside watching loose women all day because they think that it's much easier for their government to pay them to exist rather than actually contribute to a hard-working society would know they had no choice. If they wanted to eat, if they wanted to survive, guess what? They have to get a job. And I tell you the other thing that would do as well is it would tell people that there are some jobs, no matter how much you might not like them, that you're not too good for. You do have to do those jobs. You have to build up. You have to be a hard-working, tax-paying member of society in order to get any reward out of the country you're lucky enough to live in. So what this does, it does several things. Number one, it brings down migration because people won't want to come here. They won't have the incentive to come here. Number two, it helps to reduce unemployment because there will be so many people who will realize they have to have a job, whether they like it or not, and they will suddenly find themselves doing jobs that they might otherwise have said, nah, I don't want to do that. Well, guess what? You might have to. And number three, it will reduce the cost that this country, the unbearable cost that this country has to endure day after day, just paying for the most reprehensible people on the planet.
The scum of the earth. Well, let me just call it what it is. Scum of the earth.
And what an insult, actually. You know, Ian's made a point here, saying about how his wife has been here since 1989, British now, never claimed benefits. What an insult to your good lady, Ian. People like your wife, people like my ancestors, who were prepared to work their fingers to the bone to come here and be so grateful to this country for allowing them to live here and to have a safe haven here. It's not safe anymore, but to have a safe haven here and live here and work here. What an absolute insult to everyone like that. To say, do you know what? Now we'll just pay you to exist. It doesn't matter. And I tell you what we'll do. To those who are prepared to work hard, we'll put their taxes up to fund it.
It completely disincentivizes everybody. The trouble is, when the pushback comes, and the pushback will come, but when it comes, it'll be so brutal. It'll be so brutal. And I worry about the collateral damage, because that pent-up frustration and anger and disgust is like there's the thinnest of dams, and that dam is a membrane which you need a micrometer screw gauge to measure. And when it bursts, it'll be absolutely brutal. And I think innocent people are going to be horribly caught up in it.
Maybe.
Horribly. I do think that. I mean, I don't want that. What,
no one wants it. No one in their right mind wants it.
It's just insult to injury. You see Keir Starmer this week going, I'm getting rid of the Vietnamese people who shouldn't be here. And you go, and somebody said, yeah, because we're really worried about Vietnamese people who have never caused a problem. You're not walking your dog and get stabbed by somebody from Vietnam. Bullshit. I mean, how much more gaslighting can one country take?
I don't know. I really don't know.
This isn't a good idea, Keir. Really think before you tweet. The government says think before you tweet, think before you post. Yeah, maybe they should think before they tweet and post.
When you say, though, that no one wants any of this, they might not want it. But at the same time, I can't really think of any way else around it now. It's kind of got to a point of like, what else is there? I hope, beyond hope, as I said before, that it is resolved in the good old-fashioned way of actually political party comes in and actually starts listening to what the people want. But I worry that that's not an option at the moment. And if that's not an option, well, what is the alternative? We just let the country that we all love just go to the dogs, if it hasn't already.
When my friend Clark Gilbert came in from Michigan to London, and I've got another pal coming in, the great Jim Meskimen's coming in, one of the greatest impressionists in America. He's coming in from LA, so I hope to hook up with him. And I've said to both of them, I said, when you come to London, please don't have your phone out in public. They went, well, are you kidding? Yeah, don't be silly. I said, guys, please let me give you some advice. Don't have your phone out on the street, because the phone's nicked every 7 minutes. And if the official statistic is every 7 minutes, it's a lot worse than that. 7 minutes is a placebo to keep us all quiet. It's just, and I warn my friends coming in from abroad, please be careful. It's not the London, and it's not the Britain that particularly London. It's not that you knew and loved.
Certainly not like the one that they paint in Mary Poppins and that lot, that's for sure.
God blimey. No, it isn't. It isn't. I had lunch yesterday. It had been planned for weeks, and I actually took a day off. Wow. I took an actual... Yeah, I walked through central London with my Nokia out. No bastard stole it. Well, there you go. Nice gag. I had lunch with my oldest friend yesterday. We've been friends since we were both 9 years old. Since we were 9, which in our case is a bloody long time. And it was a bittersweet time, because earlier this year he discovered he had cancer. And I'm not saying who it is. And we had drinks, and then we had lunch, and he was struggling to eat, etc. And I came away, and it really, my mind was filled with so many thoughts all at the same time. One is that tomorrow isn't guaranteed. There's no promise. You don't know what the hell's around the corner. And I've had pretty crap health myself this year, but thank God not cancer. And the other thing is, and I'm the worst at this. I'm the worst to try and grab each day, carpe diem, blah, blah, blah. ad nauseam, but you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. We had a lovely time together. We loved chatting and like making each other laugh, etc. And you just think, wow, it's such a horrible wake-up call. But it's because you're so much younger than me, Phil, it's such a reminder of our mortality. And I think that makes it even more aggravating that we're going through this, for me, at my stage of life, when I've actually never been busy or working, never. But I'm grateful for that. I love it. I love what I do. But it really makes you think, really, all of this is happening now. And who knows what's around the corner. So, yeah, it was a salutary lesson, as if we needed it being reminded ever. You know? It was, it was a thing. I had coffee with a pal of mine. I'd finished conducting a funeral. My pal lived nearby, and I went round for coffee. It was very sweet. He got lunch for me in his kitchen. It was very kind of him. And he told me a story. It really sums so much up of how we are. He's walking down the street, and some absolute knob on one of those electric bikes comes whizzing down the pavement, which is, if you live in a metropolis area, you know. And these are big bikes. They're doing ridiculous speeds, and they're on the pavement. So my pal yells, "Oi, get off the pavement!" instinctively. And the guy stops his bike further up the pavement, turns around and says, "Why don't you blank off?" And my pal suddenly went, "Why don't you come here and say that?" And the moment he said that, he thought to himself, I'm 78. What the hell am I doing? Supposing this guy now comes back. Shit. What am I doing? And I was sitting at the kitchen table with him, laughing my head off, because on the one hand, it's tragic and an absolute little snapshot of life in the metropolis in London. And on the other hand, it's so true. It's like, yeah, you come here and say that. And you thinking, oh, please don't. God's sake, keep pedal and just bugger off. Oh, these are weird times. These are weird times. But I feel it's leading up to something. And I'm not happy about what it's leading up to. But I do get that sense. And I think you do as well, Phil, from everything you've said today.
Yeah, look, I believe that the tide is turning, is the only way I can describe it. Is it turning quickly enough? I'm not convinced of that, but it is turning. And I just think that there are enough good people in this country left to save it from total ruin. And as much as I understand why those of us who are decent, law-abiding citizens, hard-working taxpayers, look with utter despair at the country we once knew and loved turning into this cesspit of mayhem and insanity, I believe that the more of us that speak out saying, had enough, not doing this anymore, don't want it anymore, then something can change, and I think it will change. Whether or not it happens in the next couple of years, whilst we have these bunch of morons in charge, who knows? But I think change is coming, and I have to cling on to that, because otherwise I think I'd just go mad.
But the interesting thing is, which goes really to the heart of everything we've talked about today, the most vociferous sections of society seem to get the most attention. Whether they're raving nutcases or not doesn't seem to matter. Whether it's about gender or religion, or you don't like dogs, or this is a no-go, whatever it is. You can fill in the blanks, you're all smart. But what if everybody else, the great silent majority, got as vocal as they were? That would see a change. That would see a change. And instead
You're
of
right, it would.
letting it run, this sewer that runs through social media with the filth and the hatred and the lies and the stupidity and, quite frankly, the mental illness, if everybody else flooded it and pushed it back, that would be a start. I'm not saying it's a solution, but it would be a start. And on that bombshell,
that would be a start, and this would be an end, I'm afraid.
Correct, Mundo. I will be back. Will I be back on Monday? I think I'll be back. Yes, back on Monday with a couple of really
I'm very
good
sorry. I
guests.
haven't had the chance to tell you. I'll be back in 2 weeks. I'm out the country next week. So
Are you?
I'll
Again?
see you in a couple of weeks. I'll speak
You're
to
a
you
tax
off air.
exile. I've decided. You're going to your house in Monaco. He's got a 7-bedroom flat in Monaco. All right,
could only
Phil, have
dream.
a wonderful trip wherever you're going. And everybody, have a lovely weekend. I'll be back on Monday at 12 o'clock. Until then, please take care and no hurty words. You know what I mean?